Hi guys, my name is Ina and today we're talking about Dendrobium nobile keikis. Have you ever had a keiki before? Do you know what a keiki is? Do you know how to look after your Dendrobium nobile cake? Or if you don't know much about it, if you have many questions, stay here with me and I will try to answer some of them. I had a few questions from viewers about Dendrobium nobile cake. Some people just acquired some cakes and I thought that it would be a nice opportunity to address it here. So if that's the type of content you'd like to hear or to know more about, stay here and let's start. So what are keikis? Keikis are small baby plants or small baby orchids. They are identical to the mother plants. Usually they will be shown alongside the canes of your dendrobiums or sometimes at the base of your dendrobium as well. They are identical to their mother because they are propagated asexually, which means that there is no mix of genes or DNA, and then we have a plant that will bloom and that will perform exactly like the mother plant. When we have cakes that are these small plantlets here, ideally we should remove them from the mother plant when the roots are around 10 to 15 centimeters long in size. Otherwise, they can be very tiny and small and they may not survive on their own. While they are attached to the mother plant, they can be fed properly through the mother plant so they don't have to survive on their own. From the moment that we detach them from the mother plant, they will need to photosynthesize and be able to absorb nutrients on their own, which can be a struggle if they are very tiny. So before you remove your cake from the mother plant, if you have dendrobiums that have cakes, think about that, think about the size, if the root size is long enough, and if it will be able to perform and sustain the plant on their own. One way for you to notice as well, if you want to water the root system and if the roots become green, that means that's absorbing water. If it's only gray, whitish, it's not absorbing water on its own yet. Dendrobiums are great plants to propagate because they usually produce lots of cakes. Most dendrobiums will give you cakes, and in this way you can remove the cake. It's very easy to remove the cake as I'm showing you. You just have to, most of the case, just turn the little cake on the mother plant and then you have a tiny division. It's better to remove like that so you are not causing any injury, you are not open any wounds on your plant, and then you have less chance to have pathogens or some bacteria to propagate in that area. But if you're not being able to remove, just moving, the plant from side to side. If you used to have a knife or fork or a pair of scissors, just be careful, be gentle, and hopefully everything will be okay. The next thing is how we're gonna pot up your Dendrobium nobile cake if you just remove from the mother plant, for example. Cakes, they are much more sensitive than mature plants because they have never lived on their own, so they are still growing and maturing their structure. They don't have many places where they can store energy. They don't have long canes or they don't have other growths. So we have to be very gentle with our baby plants. I like to pot my baby plants, especially if they are very tiny, into moss, because moss is very gentle to the root system. And since it's gonna be on a tiny pot as well, it won't be too moist, it will dry out quickly, and when I decide to repot my plant that I notice that it's mature enough, I can remove the moss and I can add some bark and I can add more aerated mix. Remember that Dendrobium nobilis, these are all hybrids that we find in supermarkets. They are not this species. They are epiphytes, so usually they grow up attached to trees and tree trunks. So the roots are adapted to air, so you cannot suffocate the root system. But if you place some loose moss around it, it should be fine. It's very gentle to the roots. That's my preferred mix for keikis. But as soon as they grow a little bit more, I would definitely add some bark, especially if you're a beginner, something that will give to this mix some air as well. You can use your perfect material. How do you pot your orchids, especially your epiphyte orchids? You can play with that. If you use inorganic material, go for it. I have no experience, so I cannot advise you to do something that I don't. But go with the mix that you use the most and you should be fine. But that's when the keiki is mature enough. So when it's still a keiki, and let's say you bought it, it's already potted, and you have to repot some other material, still use moss if it's a very tiny keiki. If it is a larger keiki and if you have other divisions, then I would add some bark as well. And now let's talk about culture. For you to understand how you will look after your Dendrobium nobile cake, it's really important that you have some ideas about culture or how to look after your mature Dendrobium nobile to these hybrids. I do have a full tutorial, I link it down below, on how to look after Dendrobiums. I also have some videos where I show you how I repot my Dendrobiums, but that's not the focus of this video. Dendrobium nobiles, they are semi-deciduous orchids. They are not completely deciduous, but what means that they are semi-deciduous orchids? It means that they need a proper cool down in temperature to be able to bloom for you. And they will be kind of dormant for a few months, but they won't lose all of its leaves, all of its roots. If you notice that the canes are very dehydrated, you can offer a little bit of water. That's why I'm telling you that's not a completely dormant orchid, but will be kind of nice stage that you won't need to properly water and fertilizer and all that. Why this is? Dendrobium nobile, the hybrids that we have, they are very affordable, they are everywhere. When we are in the warmer month of the year, they will push out new canes, they will mature the new canes until you have one top leaf here at the extreme top. When you have this leaf here completely formed, you know that this cake is mature enough. And usually, at least where I live now, and when I was in Brazil, I think they had like around 8 months, let's say, to completely mature a new cake with new leaves. And in each section of this cake, if they had proper fertilizer, enough bright light, when we offer a cool down in temperature, they will push out flower spikes. The temperature needs to be, I would say, around 10 degrees Celsius or below 10 degrees Celsius for these plants to be able to bloom. I don't have an outdoor area, so for me to offer that, I have a specific place in my house where I keep the windows open and I leave all of my Dendrobium nobiles there for 1-2 months, depends on the plant. Some hybrids, they are more complex, so they will bloom easier, others are more difficult. But these plants, they need a cool down temperature to be able to rebloom. If you don't have any space that you can offer this cool down temperature during night time for at least a month, these probably are not a plant for you because you may not be able to rebloom these plants. They will keep growing vegetatively, but they may not bloom for you. So, and what about cakes? Should we offer a cool down temperature? How should you look after them? I wouldn't place my keikis in a place that's near freezing temperatures. If I don't have a mature enough plant that's capable of store energy properly yet, that has new growths, and that probably won't bloom for me, it's better in this case to keep your plant healthy, to keep it with all of the other orchids inside your home, for example, with intermediate temperature, offering it water when you need, when you notice that the mix is dry, fertilizing it just a little bit when you notice it's growing or pushing out a new growth, and wait for it to have a fully mature cane. Then when it's the right season, you can offer a cool down temperature and this plant will be able to bloom. If you decide to place it in a spot where the temperature will go very low, this plant that maybe don't have enough roots, don't have enough leaves, don't have proper canes, it can become stressed during this period of time and may not survive. So I have some cakes here. I just showed you. This is not a nobile, it's another Dendrobium, but nonetheless they are very similar. They are also semi-deciduous. So what is going to happen with this tiny keiki here that's in my hand? I have to pot it separately from the mother plant because I will definitely place the mother plant in a spot where I can offer a cool down in temperature in order to have blooms. I will not do it with this little one. With this little one, I will pot it in moss, place it under my shelving, offer some growing lights, and keep it watering until I notice that I have fully mature canes. And then when the time comes, I can decide to pot it with the mother plant again, pot separately, gift it to a friend. That's up to me, and that would be up to you as well. It's your choice. But when we are talking about baby orchids, it's better to keep it in a place where you have intermediate temperature. You can fertilize when you notice that's growing. It will need some fertilizer, but don't stress it too much. Something important with Dendrobium nobilis is usually they grow pretty fast. So even the cakes, from my own experience, if you allow them, if they attach to mother plants, to grow nicely and then remove them, you're gonna have a mature plant in less than a year. If you bought them as baby plants, maybe in 1 year and a half, you're gonna have fully mature dendrobiums that will be able to bloom as well. So they are really fast growing plants, which is great. So you don't need to stress out much about them. And when they are fully mature, just remember during the growing season when we have more light and the temperature is warmer, to give them plenty of fertilizer, water, and then you're gonna have beautiful canes that will give you many blooms. I hope this video was useful if you're asking what should you do when you're looking after Dendrobium nobile cakes. If you have any questions, let me know. Keep growing your nobiles. They are lovely when they are in bloom and they put a beautiful bloom show. That was my last chance to show you mine because they are going to that cool down spot. This week I think I have to reorganize my growing space, and hopefully I'll be able to show you in January, I think, December, some nobile blooms. And that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.